blood brought me this far. I need more.
What the f... That is right, everybody. Today we're going to be breaking down Hellraiser, produced by New World Pictures, released in 1987. This film was genuinely a really good horror movie that explores themes of demons and bad marriages, and I don't really have too much else to say, so fuck it, let's just get straight into the breakdown. The film opens with a man behind a box, and then cuts to him sitting in complete darkness, surrounded by candles, opening it, because that's what people did before the internet. We then hear some unsettling sounds come from around him, but he decides it's best to continue on and try and open this weird looking thing anyways. Out of nowhere, what looks to be electric fishhooks fly out of the box and attack him, digging into his skin. We then cut to a creepy room with spinning chains, weird stands, and floors covered in human remains. We pan to a mysterious figure who begins fishing around in some of the human remains on the floor, and we see him fishing around in what looks to be the skin of the guy's face from earlier. He then opens up his weird box again, closes it, and completely vanishes. The camera then pans to a couple entering the house.
Voila.
This is Larry and this is Julia. They're a couple that have just moved into the place. Julia goes upstairs and Larry begins to hear creepy noises. He then comes to a room that looks to be fresh out of a TLC episode, before Julia calls him upstairs and we hear Larry explain that this must be the result of Frank.
Frank.
He then gets a call from Christy, and she's the daughter of Larry, who explains that she won't be staying in the shithole house. Julia then finally comes around and says that she likes the place, so they both decide to move in. We get a flashback to Julia meeting Frank. This flashback is kind of suspicious, especially since Julia vanishes upstairs when her flashback is interrupted. She goes into a weird dark room in the attic, and we get more flashbacks to Frank, and then realise that he was a real Rizzler. Like, I don't know why I said that, and what am I doing? Julia then asks about her husband, to which Frank responds with a switchblade. Julia seems to miss Frank, but her fun memories are foiled as Larry, when moving, cuts his hand and begins bleeding on the floor. And uh-oh, there seems to be something in the floorboards, Larry. We then get some cool dissolve transitions, until we eventually end up with the floorboards moving. What the fuck is going on with this house? We then see what looks to be two arms bring itself up into the overworld. This slimy, gross thing wiggles its fingers around, before we cut to Julia at a dinner table, with Larry cracking hella jokes.
Call you tomorrow, we'll sue his ass.
Julia really kills the vibe of the place before looking at Larry and guiltily walking out. Julia hears whispers coming from upstairs and begins to investigate. It leads her to a door to which she opens, and when she's inside, we hear some cool sounds of a heart pulsing, building up very nice tension. She comes to some rats before we get a jump scare. We get a cool, very short-lived mini chase scene. It is then revealed that the thing earlier in the floorboards is Frank, and he explains that Larry's blood on the floor brought him back from the dead. Meanwhile, downstairs, Larry's daughter is she acting drunk? She makes her way upstairs. Meanwhile, Frank tells Julia that he needs healing and needs more blood to do so. Julia then runs into Christy and we get this awkward scene.
Hi. Are you alright?
Later that night, when out walking, Christy bumps into this creepy old man. He looks pretty homeless, before confessing to Steve that she doesn't like Julia too much. And I mean, fair enough. Julia still misses Frank, and after saying in her earlier memories that she will do anything for him, it then cuts to this weird shared nightmare that Christy and her boyfriend seem to both be having. Christy realizes Larry is in trouble, so gives him a bell. Julia is listening in, and also somebody else. Okay. Julia goes out to drink and brings home this other guy back to the house. The bar boy stranger begins to kiss Julia, who obviously is kind of troubled, begins to bring the guy upstairs, but she doesn't take him to the bedroom, however, and she says she prefers the floor.
I've always preferred the floor.
The man then needs to empty his bladder.
Empty the old bladder.
Before Julia whacks him in the face with a hammer, while the little demon boy Frank goes to feast on him as Julia goes to clean off. I do want to mention that she does kind of look troubled throughout this whole scene, so she does kind of show some humanity. Anyways, he comes back into the room, and the stranger's corpse all mangled, and Frank a whole lot bigger and stronger. Slimy boy Frank wants more blood and explains how strong he is getting. He tries to get touchy with Julia before Larry comes home, and she has to quickly dispose of this random guy's body. She manages to make it to the bathroom before Larry sees her covered in blood, and claims that she feels sick. She goes back to Frank and explains that the Cenobites?
The Cenobites.
Explains that the Cenobites are chasing after him, and his nerves are coming back, but they may need another body or two before he's back to normal. Meanwhile, Chrissy's at the pet shop, and she just got a job, but sees the homeless guy from earlier eating a bunch of live insects. She then makes the least threatening threat.
Get out. You get out of here.
Before the homeless guy just walks out of the shop. Back at the crib, we see Julia killing another dude and Frank feasting on him. Only now, Julia becoming more and more stoic and less guilt-ridden in her actions. Frank now has some clothes back, and you know he's properly getting better as he's having a cheeky cigarette. He explains to Julia that the box from earlier opens the doors to heaven or hell. The Cenobites gave him the experience of pain and pleasure. We see that it was Pinhead who was torturing him at the beginning, and also, this guy is probably pretty fucked up. Julia seems pretty confident that Cenobites aren't going to find him. Julia is then confirmed to be completely different to how she is at the start of the film.
I thought this kind of stuff made you sick.
I've seen worse.
Frank is having a little rage fit upstairs, the kind that I used to have after losing a game of Fortnite. Julia really don't want Larry to go upstairs, so starts kissing him. Okay. Oh, Frank is waiting for him up there, so Larry goes to find him, but is completely okay. But when they go to the bedroom, we somehow find out that Frank is still there. There's someone in your closet, Larry. Frank comes out the closet, no pun intended, and opens a switchblade and cuts a rat up. She says that she can't bear it before Frank just runs off and makes Julia look like a complete schizophrenic.
I don't understand you. Hey, one minute you're all over me, and the next I just don't understand you.
Larry, who's reasonably upset from Julia's behaviour, goes to meet with Christy and explains that Julia doesn't even want to leave the house and is acting very strange, which seems to intrigue Christy. Larry asks her to stop by sometime. Frank is then pissed and demands more blood to feast on. We then cut to Julia leading other men into the house, but these actions don't go unnoticed, as Christy is watching from the bushes. Uh-oh, you done fucked up, Julia? This guy spots Frank, and Julia brings him up, and Julia brings out the hammer again and starts beating him. But Frank steps in and finishes the job. Frank then proceeds to feast on him alive. Christy breaks into the crib, and we get another jump scare! Christy starts to walk upstairs to see what's up, and Julia goes to hide. Julia sees one guy die before Frank tries to explain who he is. Frank tries being so villainous before Christy just pokes him in the stomach, and gets Frank's box, and throws it out the window, and just runs off. Much to Frank's dismay, she manages to get away, but eventually collapses on the side of the road. We get some cool little images, and Christy finally comes to. She gets up, but the doctors insist she is not going to go anywhere. They bring the box into the room and tell her the police are going to get involved. She inspects the box and starts doing this cool little Harry Potter stuff, before accidentally opening the box, leading to her whole hospital room to open. After the box opens, a massive hole in her hospital room does. She then thinks it'd be a great idea to go down this hole, and hears screams of crying babies before seeing this bug monster thing, which kicks off one of the funniest chase scenes I've ever seen in my life. The graphics are very outdated, I know. She makes it back to her hospital room in hysterics, and more spooky shit starts happening. Then a monster appears in front of her, and we see Pinhead. Finally, dude. We're like an hour in this film, man. We've hardly seen him. She explains to Pinhead that Frank escaped them, then kicks off a deal with the demons, exchanging a chance at living for Frank. Meanwhile, Julia and Frank are having a little panic attack before Larry gets home, and Julia says that she needs to explain everything to Frank. We then get led to believe that Larry gets killed. Christy escapes the hospital and makes it back to the house. Julia lets her in before shutting the door menacingly. Christy then explains to Larry everything and gives him a hug. We then get this feeling that something is really off. Why is there blood all over his scalp and ears? Yeah, Christy wants to see Frank, which kind of pisses Larry off. Christy goes upstairs and Larry starts checking his eyelid. Christy finds a body upstairs before the door slams and Pinhead appears before her. Pinhead then explains that he wants the man that made the corpse, and Christy runs before bumping into Julia, who attempts to block her from running any further. Christy makes it downstairs, but after bumping into Larry, Christy realizes that ain't Larry, that's fucking Frank! It's confirmed by his creepy voice lines, and when she scratches part of his skin off, Julia starts screaming. Frank goes back to old school with his blade and attempts to stab Christy, who cleverly moves out of the way before he stabs Julia. He then sucks the life out of her before going upstairs to find Christy. I wasn't expecting Julia to just die after doing that all for him. Don't trust demon things that come out of floorboards. Frank is roaming around the house in this pretty intense scene trying to find Christy. She takes refuge in the top floor room, and we get another really good jump scare that is way too good for the time period it was made. Frank enters the room and looks around, and before we get a not so good jump scare, he then leaves and Christy gets up way too fast. I mean, Frank is probably only like 4 steps away. We also get another tension build up scene of Christy crying and Frank coming out of the room behind her. Christy gets backed into the corpse of Larry. Frank is being a real fucking douche, but before it gets to kill Christy, we see the weird lights come on again, and yeah, we already know who that is. It's motherfucking Pinhead, who is casting chains and shit at Frank, who doesn't seem so high and mighty now. Frank realizes that he's been set up, and before he can kill her, a meat hook flies through his skin, impaling his hand. And a couple more for good measure. We then get a gross shot of Frank exploding. The demons then turn their attention to Christy, who is in a whole house of horrors. She manages to pick up the box from the corpse on the bed, but before she can really do anything, Pinhead comes up behind her and tells her that he has such sights to show her. Christy then closes the box and other demons start to disappear. She finds Steve after casting another demon away. Before the slug can get a hold of the two, Christy finally manages to close the box, and the two just casually walk out of the house. Steve, the good man, gives Christy his jacket. The house behind them lights up and burns to the ground. What? Christy chucks the box in the part of the fire, and I wonder how long it took for them to just stand there and watch the house burn down, and why is no one calling the fire brigade? Anyway, we see that weird homeless guy from earlier reach into the fire and get the box before turning into a dragon and flying off into the sunset, or moonset, flying off into the night sky. And we get a very cool transition to back right where we started at the beginning of the movie. What a great fucking film. So yeah, that's Hellraiser. I really hope you guys did enjoy that video. because I really do enjoy making these videos, and something as small as a subscription does really go a long way. I don't know how regularly I'm going to upload, or if I'm going to have an upload schedule or anything, because obviously this channel's quite new. Yeah man, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I'm grateful that you guys watched this video. If you guys want me to cover any other films or whatever, feel free to drop them, man, because I don't really know what movies to cover next. I probably will come up with some. I've got some other ideas as well. But yeah, other than that, you know, have an amazing day. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope everything goes well, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.